Hello there, welcome back to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. I'm really excited today to share with you my thoughts on 10 Criterion Collection editions that are documentaries. I love documentaries across multiple genres, whether it's a really good music documentary about a particular band or a music festival, or a sports documentary that covers a specific event, or it could be a political documentary, a war documentary, a docudrama. I love documentaries from all genres. My dad was a huge fan of documentaries. I'm a huge documentary fan as well. So I'm really looking forward to sharing these titles with you. And I really want to hear what your thoughts are on these titles. I want to hear what you think about these titles, and also what recommendations you would have that are not on the list that I'm going to share today. I also want to give a shout out to Matt from Canada for recommending that we do a documentary video from Criterion. So thanks, Matt, for the idea. I think that's an excellent idea, and I'm really looking forward to sharing these documentary titles with you all today. There's nothing like sitting down and just taking in a nice documentary that tells you a little bit about history or gives you some insight into the past, or dives deep into a particular topic, and you just come away learning a little bit something more about the world. So these are 10 documentaries I'm really excited about sharing with you. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The first two documentaries I'm going to cover here in this video are in the music space. So I love a good music documentary that really chronicles either a particular band, a specific band, or maybe a concert tour, or maybe a music festival. I absolutely love those types of documentaries, and I've got a couple of documentaries in that vein for you today. The first is a documentary from 1967, and it's called Don't Look Back. This is featuring Bob Dylan. This is the D.A. Pennebaker documentary that chronicles the 1965 tour that Bob Dylan was on in London, England. This is an excellent documentary featuring Bob Dylan, and this particular edition from Criterion is a 4K digital restored transfer. So I always love to see a 4K digital restoration. This is the only documentary that I'm going to cover in this video that has a 4K digital restoration. So definitely check this one out. The transfer is excellent from this 1965 footage for this documentary that was put together in 1967. So this is an excellent documentary from D.A. Pennebaker that I highly recommend. Bob Dylan, Don't Look Back. Check this one out. The second documentary in the music space that I will recommend is featuring one of the greatest music groups of all time, the Rolling Stones, in 1970's Gimme Shelter. Now this is from filmmakers David and Albert Maysles and Charlotte Zwerin, who you might be familiar with these filmmakers. They are responsible for the excellent documentary Salesman from the 1960s. This is Gimme Shelter that the Rolling Stones starred in. So I highly recommend checking out this title. This basically covers the last few moments of the 1969 tour that the Stones was on, that culminated in the ill-fated free concert at Altamont that year. This is a great documentary from the Stones with these excellent filmmakers that I highly recommend. This is Gimme Shelter, starring the Rolling Stones from 1970. Check this one out as well. All right, my next selection is from the war genre, and this is an excellent one. I always love watching war documentaries that dive deep into a specific conflict or theater of war. There are several excellent documentaries around World War I and World War II and the Korean War and various conflicts around the world. This is a documentary about the Vietnam War, the Vietnam conflict, and it's called Hearts and Minds. This is from Peter Davis. This is an absolutely excellent edition from Criterion that is from 1974, and it talks about the whole Vietnam War and several aspects of that conflict in Southeast Asia. And this documentary covers so many different aspects of this war from different angles in terms of the horrors of war. And it's very visceral. It doesn't really hold anything back, and it's sort of told from a slightly political perspective. So there is definitely a heavy lean politically in this documentary that you will pick up on when you see this. But this is an excellent documentary nonetheless that just shows you the horrors of war, that shows you a really interesting glimpse into the conflict that was the Vietnam War. And I highly, highly recommend. This is a battle for the hearts and minds of the people. This is Hearts and Minds, the excellent documentary from Peter Davis from 1974. Check it out. All right, my next documentary is in the political documentary space, and it is a really, really good one. This is from Robert Drew and Associates, and these are the Kennedy films of Robert Drew and Associates. This is an excellent edition from Criterion. It basically features 4 separate segments that Robert Drew and Associates covered of John F. Kennedy during his campaign for president, during his time in the Oval Office, and unfortunately some time after his assassination. This is an excellent collection of those stories from Robert Drew and Associates. And Robert Drew and his team got a really up close and personal, in-depth view from the inside. So Robert Drew and his team got great inside access to the goings on in the Kennedy inner circle during these segments that is very insightful as to how this leader's mind worked and how he operated during his campaign, during his presidency. That is really, really insightful. This documentary gives you an amazing glimpse into the Kennedy presidency. So this is an amazing documentary from Robert Drew and Associates that I highly recommend. This is the Kennedy films of Robert Drew and Associates. Highly recommend it. Check it out. All right, next are a couple of sports documentaries. I also love a good sports documentary, and these two are 2 excellent ones that I highly recommend. The first being one from the Olympics, which is Tokyo Olympiad. This is from Kon Ichikawa, and this is an absolutely incredible, nearly 3-hour summary of many of the events covered during the 1964 Olympiad in Tokyo, Japan. This is an epic edition from Criterion that I highly recommend, with some wonderful special features. There is a 4K digital restoration on this one. I think I misspoke when I said that Don't Look Back was the only 4K digital restoration. This is actually the second of the ones that I'll cover here. This is a new 4K digital restoration, and I have to say it looks absolutely incredible. The footage on here from 1964, from nearly 60 years ago, looks amazing. It is beautifully rendered in this restoration, and I highly recommend checking this out, especially for those of you who may not want to, splurge on the full Olympics box set. This is included in that Olympics box set that came out a few years ago that I think is a few $100s. You may not want to spend that much money on all the Olympics covered in that set, but you want a taste of the Olympics. This is a really good way of getting it. This is a great documentary from Kon Ichikawa called Tokyo Olympiad from 1964. This is the 1965 film that was put together for that, and I highly recommend it. Check this one out, Tokyo Olympiad. Then there's also another fantastic documentary that's in the sports realm that's probably one of the greatest documentaries of all time, if not the greatest documentary, if you ask some people, and it's called Hoop Dreams. This is from 1994, and this is Steve James's classic documentary about 2 young men and their aspirations to be professional basketball players. This is a fantastic documentary from Criterion. If you have not seen this one, I highly recommend checking this one out. It's just a fantastic documentary that shows their journey, their struggle, their ups and their downs. Also shows a little bit of life after their basketball pursuits as well in the special features. So this is an excellent documentary from Criterion. It's a classic. It's from 1994 from Steve James. It's called Hoop Dreams. Check this one out. All right, so next we're going to talk about another sort of historical documentary that is absolutely fantastic and epic and otherworldly, if you would. It's called For All Mankind. This is a fantastic documentary from Alan Reinert. This is from 1989, and this is an absolutely amazing documentary from Criterion. It covers the Apollo missions that put men on the moon from 1969 to 1972. It covers those missions. So the original archival NASA footage is included in this documentary, and it is absolutely excellent to see. And the shots from space of Earth are absolutely breathtaking in this documentary. This is just a fantastic addition. And this features a new restored high definition digital transfer. It's not a 4K or even a 2K digital transfer, but it's an excellent rendering in high definition for this edition from Criterion. It's a Blu-ray upgrade that came out a few years ago. This is actually spine number 54 from the collection. So this is one that if you have not had a chance to see, if you're interested in documentaries, particularly historical documentaries about space or about the whole moon missions, this is an absolutely epic way to experience that. For All Mankind from 1988. It's not a very long watch. It's only 80 minutes, so you can breeze through this one, but it is absolutely packed in the content that's on here. You'll want to note that there is an audio commentary on here featuring Reinert and Apollo 17 Commander Eugene A. Cernan, the last man to set foot on the moon. So you'll definitely want to check that out. This is an excellent documentary from 1988 for All Mankind. Check this one out. All right, so these last three documentaries are in what I would call the docudrama space. So docudramas, in my mind, are a mixture between drama and history. And so these last three documentaries kind of fall in that space. The first one is from the master himself, Mr. Orson Welles. If you happen to be a fan of Orson Welles, I highly recommend that you pick up F for Fake. This is from 1975. This is an absolutely fantastic edition from Criterion that I highly recommend checking out. This is basically Orson Welles' journey into what is illusion versus what's real, what is fake versus reality. And if I can read the back of this, it says trickery, deceit, magic. In F for Fake, a free-form sort of documentary by Orson Welles, the legendary filmmaker gleefully re-engages with the central preoccupation of his career, the tenuous lines between illusion and truth, art and lies. So this is Orson Welles' 1975 documentary that's basically a meandering story that's loosely based on the life of a real person named Elmer D. Horry, who was a painter and an art forger. So he was dealing with what is fake versus what's real. And this is a really interesting and fascinating documentary that sort of deals with that conflict and drama that I highly recommend from the master himself, Orson Welles. F for Fake, check this one out. Then the next one is a fantastic release, which is called The Thin Blue Line. And this is sort of a crime investigation type story that is from Errol Morris. And this one is from 1988. And it basically covers the trial and investigation of a man who was convicted of murdering a police officer. This is just a fantastic breakdown of that case and the different elements of the case. And I'll read the back here. It says, among the most important documentaries ever made, The Thin Blue Line by Errol Morris erases the border between art and activism. A work of meticulous journalism and gripping drama, it recounts the disturbing tale of Randall Dale Adams, a drifter who was charged with the murder of a Dallas police officer and sent to death row despite evidence that he did not commit the crime. This is an excellent documentary. I highly recommend it. It has an interview with Morris on here. It also has an interview with Joshua Oppenheimer, who's the director of The Act of Killing. It's got an NBC report on here from 1989 covering Randall Dale Adams' release from prison. And this is just a very interesting and riveting documentary that I highly recommend checking out. If you like, documentaries that are investigations or police procedurals or things of that sort, this is the type of documentary you might want to check out. It is spine number 753 in the Criterion Collection. It's called The Thin Blue Line. It's from 1988 and it's from Errol Morris. Definitely recommend checking this one out. So last but not least is a documentary from 2016. Now I've covered several documentaries from the 60s and 70s, a couple from the 1980s, one from the 1990s in Hoop Dreams. This is the most recent documentary and it's from 2016 and it's from a filmmaker named Kirsten Johnson and it's called Camera Person. So this is a really nice documentary from Kirsten Johnson. She is a cinematographer and this is basically a documentary that is autobiographical in nature and covers different aspects of her life and times, covering different events from around the world. And so she cobbles together various events that she's covered. And on the back here it describes a boxing match in Brooklyn, life in post-war Bosnia and Herzegovina, the daily routine of a Nigerian midwife, an intimate family moment at home with the director. Kirsten Johnson weaves these scenes and others into her film Camera Person, a tapestry of footage captured over her 25-year career as a documentary cinematographer. So this is an excellent documentary. A very interesting and eclectic mix of footage is what you're going to get in this documentary from Kirsten Johnson, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching this. This is just an excellent inside look into how a cinematographer goes about capturing their footage and the way they go about framing up a story in these various aspects of different people's lives around the world. So highly recommend checking this one out. This is Spine number 853 from the Criterion Collection. So this is definitely one that I would recommend checking out from Kirsten Johnson from 2016. So it's a more recent documentary. So this is one I highly recommend checking out as well. Camera Person from Kirsten Johnson. All right, so there you have it. These are 10 titles that I can recommend for an upcoming flash sale or a Barnes & Noble or Amazon sale. Definitely check out these titles from Criterion. They are very much worth it. They are riveting documentaries that I cannot recommend enough. Check these out. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think about these titles? Have you had a chance to see these titles? Do you own any of these titles from Criterion? If so, what do you think about these particular documentaries? And also, what documentaries would you recommend? Because Criterion has many, many more documentaries in their collection that I didn't even name here that are worthy to be on this list. Let me know what documentaries you would recommend from Criterion. Also, let me know in the comments below, what other genres would you recommend that we do a video on for Criterion recommendations? Let me know that in the comments below as well. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll look to see you next time at the movies. Peace.